It's all about the macro productions.
What does the goddamn line say, Tony?
Please do not use gendered language.
Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail?
Look, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dave on NBC.
Jack Marius Tack-Theratrix.
Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Jackson, Sacramento, he, him.
Steven Seagal.
Sex offender guy.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is Muammar Gaddafi.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Sorting through the lies.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
And uncovering the centuries-long plan for world domination.
Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Let's talk about Chinese people.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison? Swangles in Fort Lauderdale.
I have sent 6 of my Libyan missiles to blow up the Sears hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host,
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard.
I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I'm your host, Charlie Robinson. If you're watching us on Rockfin or Rumble or listening wherever podcasts are served, we appreciate the support. Thank you so much. Hey, it's not too much to ask. If you could rate the show, if you think we've earned 5 stars, we would appreciate it. The algorithms certainly do matter to us. So we'll play that game for as long as we have to. The website, macroaggressions.io, is the best place to go to find out anything you want to know about the show, about the books, and all that good stuff. Thank you so much to our sponsors. They make this show happen. Our newest sponsor, Privacy Academy. They've got a workshop for you if you're somebody that needs to reevaluate your relationship with technology online and your privacy surrounding that. They've got a workshop that can really help you get the ball rolling. It's not too intimidating. It'll guide you through and start you down that process of getting yourself a little bit more private with regard to what's going on online. There's a lot of information out there that's being gathered on you, and these guys can show you how to do it. So if you didn't watch the interview with Glenn and Eric Metter, go check that out. They are our newest sponsors over at Privacy Academy, and the link to that is down in the show notes, or you can just go over to the website, to the partners page, and click on it there. It'll give you, it'll save you some money, give you a discount on that, on Privacy Academy. So check that out if you are interested. Also, big thanks to the crew over at Chemical Free Body that have been keeping me healthy for the last 4 years. I drink Green 85 every single morning, and I have 4 years. It's really easy. It's less than 5 minutes. There's no excuses unless you just don't want to get yourself healthy, which is certainly something that a lot of people have to deal with. But if you have made the decision that this is the year that you are going to take back control of your health, Chemical Free Body is a good place to start. Go over to their website and read up about it. If you find something that you like, the discount code for it is Macro. Well, I'm excited for this one. We had a chance to, we bumped into each other a little bit, I think, in Mexico, but there was so much going on. We're going to get into 7 pharma myths, ladies and gentlemen. Antony Sammeroff. How are you, Antony? Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. It's fantastic to be on Macro Aggressions. I'm feeling a little bit aggressive and also a little bit macro. I feel a little bit aggressive every time I go into my podcast app. And I'm like, Macro Aggressions comes on, and I'm like, hey, how come I've not been on that show yet? What the hell? I've been on that one. No. Anyway, so we've managed to solve it now, and as a token of my appreciation, everyone at home go to 7pharmamyths.com. The number 7 pharma, not like a farm, like of the pharmaceutical industry, and myths like Roman or Greek mythology, 7pharmamyths.com, and get a free ebook. Can you freaking believe that? Oh. It's really good to be here with you. I'm sorry that we didn't get more time to spend in Acapulco, but it's good to be here with you now, and I'm really excited to do your show. You do a great show.
I'm glad that you're here, because we have spent a lot of time on this show talking about the pharmaceutical industry and what a bunch of disgusting scumbags they are. They've always been that way. It's not something that just started happening with COVID. It might have been the trigger that woke a lot of people up, to that. But as we know, this has been going on for a long, long time. It's creation, just coming out of the Rockefeller School of Medicines and the Flexner reports and all of that. It was always set up by design to not necessarily benefit the people. How do you wind up getting involved in this? I mean, I know a lot of people wind up getting into the pharmaceutical side of things because they have health issues and they wind up going down that path. They see how dirty it is and they go, "Oh, I want nothing to do with it." How'd you wind up into this?
Well, that was part of it for me. In fact, I got into this through various different things. I've been a libertarian kind of writer for 10 years or more. And I'd written something on the economics of healthcare. I also had my own health challenges, which we'll get to in a minute. And I saw that there was lots of books on this stuff, but they took it from one angle, healthcare from the economics angle, and they tended to accept the pharmaceutical way of looking at health. And then there was their natural health stuff, and there was the kind of history, the Flexner report, how the pharmaceutical industry pushed out other modalities of healing that were actually quite popular and well liked at the time. And then the first-hand experience, detoxifying the body. I used to have eczema, psoriasis, blotching on my chest, fungal forms. I was gluten and dairy intolerant. Now I can tolerate those foods. I went through bouts of depression and anxiety, all of this stuff. And the mainstream, this was going back to when I was a kid, by the way. The mainstream doctors had no solutions for me. Once I went down to the Isle of Wight, I don't know, about the age of 21, 22, that's the very southmost of England. And there was a Chinese medicine doctor who just looked at a bunch of my symptoms and went, "Well, that will all be your digestion," and gave me, the fact is, he looked at it from a holistic perspective rather than every symptom being its own disease, which is great for the pharmaceutical industry, because that means they can treat your symptom. And if your symptom goes away because they repress the system, it looks like you're getting better. Well, actually, as far as the disease process is concerned, you're getting worse. It's just that you don't know that you're getting worse because your symptoms seems to have gone away. But as they say, that's a little bit like cutting the wire to the red warning light in your car when the warning light goes off. So over the journey, when this COVID stuff happened and it seemed to go on forever, I suddenly knew what I had to do. And I had to take all of these different strands of knowledge that I got from studying alternative health, from studying the economics, the history, all of these different things. I could see how to create a more comprehensive view. Instead of having one camera on the set, let's look at the set from every angle. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And that's what I've been focusing on. And also, I think another point is that I think COVID kind of disillusioned me of the view that if you gave people the right information, they would just change their minds. I know I'm stupid. I shouldn't have to get to the age of 38 to realize that. But I was very, very persistent in believing that information would change the world. So I think the great thing about focusing on the pharma stuff is, I'd love to change people's minds. I'd love to change the system. And if people read my stuff and understand it broadly enough, it will change the system. But this does not rely on any systemic change or in changing the minds of people who don't want to be changed. People who are interested in this stuff can read my material, and then they can change their personal habits and they can become a lot more healthy without even changing the system at all. So I like the fact that this this topic would allow me to make an impact and help people without relying on any systemic change, like convincing people that the minimum wage is bad for the poor, for example.
Right.
Which is pretty hard to do. So, yeah, I think that's probably how I got into this. Through the synergy of first-hand experience and a mixture of skills that I thought would be useful in this area.
Yeah. And you're probably frustrated the way the rest of us are frustrated. You thought that you would bring all these amazing facts and logic and reason to the conversation about COVID, and that people would look at it and they would go, "Oh, I understand. This is here. You've got facts and you've got information and statistics and all that." You would think that would be enough to change their mind. But most people, they don't care about facts. They care about feelings. They care about how they feel about the things.
Yeah.
They feel like Dr. Fauci is a good guy. They feel like Donald Trump wants what's best for them. They feel these things.
Right.
Therefore, that's truth to them, right? And here you come with your goddamn facts and you're screwing up their feelings, right? And
right, exactly.
Is that
and what's they're invested? Yeah, and even more so, even before that, with like economics, which I've been basically I teach an online course on the economics of healthcare for IPAC-EDU, which is James Lyons Wheeler, who did the major study that demonstrated that in 4,000 children, the more vaccines they had, the more unhealthy they were on average. So, I was already well versed in the economics of healthcare. And coming to people with facts about economics and realizing that there's a subconscious assessment going on, which is, if I believe what you're trying to tell me, then I need to get into arguments with my tribe, my friends, my family, the lefties that agree with me. Or, as you mentioned on the Trump side, oh, no, that I wouldn't be a very good Republican if I believed the X, Y, and Z anymore. And then I need to portray, so they're not going based on what is true and what's false, but their assessment of what the implications for their life would be and their relationships if they had to change their mind. Which, by the way, I'm a psychologist, I'm a psychotherapist. It's like my side hustle. I coach, I practice online. Yourselfandloveit.com if you're a freedom warrior. So the psychological aspect of these things is also very interesting to me. Another strand to my pharma bow, because I had so many clients come in before I practiced online especially, but even online, that were on psychiatric medications or were fobbed off by psychiatrists and mistreated by psychiatrists. And I saw how the medical system works in mental health. But the psychological aspect of why people don't change their minds when they're confronted with new information is interesting to me. I guess the way that we are so mistreated by people with mainstream views made me more want to go into reporting this stuff, because I'm like, well, do you know what? If you don't want the facts, you can just go ahead and poison yourself. I'm not going to stop you. I'm very libertarian that way, but I want to make sure those people who are interested in getting the right information know the risks of taking drugs and make an educated decision, have informed consent, and maybe I can stop those people, who are open to the truth from poisoning themselves.
Well, yeah, that's very libertarian of you, right? To present the information and let people make up their own minds about that. That would be great if they did this, if they used that same philosophy with us, right? But we didn't get that.
Right.
We didn't get the opportunity to opt out. We got, you're all crazy. You're all anti-science. You're trying to kill grandmothers. You're making this last longer. Now we have to start all over again because of you guys. I mean, so they don't want to solve the problem. They just want to blame somebody else for the problem, right? Is that what you've discovered?
Well, I mean, the interesting thing is that they can't. I don't know. They can't tolerate proper discourse, as you've seen with these things. They don't engage in debate. They don't bring two experts on. I was saying at the time, look, even if you think COVID is extremely dangerous and that lockdowns are justified and that wearing a mask is effective, okay, that's one thing. Do you think it's right that no expert who disagrees with that is allowed on television or the radio, and they started pulling everyone off YouTube and social media for disagreeing with that? Because I was under the impression that we lived in a liberal democracy, whatever that means, not in a communist country where only one opinion is allowed on TV or the radio, and that's the only thing that people are allowed to hear. If you're in favor of that, then I don't know how you can go around calling yourself a liberal. Certainly, whatever a liberal wants, never mind in 19th century Europe, right? Is meaningless. It's completely meaningless. There was, as your audience are well aware, there was no debate at TIND, TIND. There is no debate. But, what really gets me, this just came out, what was it? Friday, 22nd of March, 4 days ago. The FDA has settled a court case that alleged the agency overstepped with its campaign against ivermectin. The federal agency needs to remove every post or statement they made against ivermectin. This includes the most viewed post for the FDA on the platform X, in which they state, "You're not a horse, stop it." Right? Is this meant to be a professional organization? You're not a horse, stop it. That's about on the mental maturity level of, Donald Trump on Twitter. So this is just coming to the press. I think the prosecutor, who was it that said this? Dr. Pierre Corey said that the FDA. Have you had Pierre Corey on your show?
No.
The guy who wrote the war on ivermectin. The FDA knew exactly what it was doing when it tweeted that ivermectin was. That's the thing. It was already a parasite medication. Right. So anyway, I was looking for a juicy quote. But what annoys me about this stuff is, here we go. The FDA interfered in the practice of medicine with their irresponsible language and posts about ivermectin. We will never know how many lives were affected because patients were denied access to a life-saving treatment because their doctor was just following the FDA. What happens is these things come out, no one loses their job, and no one's fired. The world just keeps on turning and turning. I couldn't believe it when about a year ago, the New York Times released an article saying, lab leak, the most likely origin of coronavirus, according to the Energy Department. That came out in the New York Times. In a sane society, I don't want to say there'd be lynch mobs because I don't know if people are violent in a sane society, but you'd think people would go, wait a minute, you just locked us at home for a virus that came out of a lab, and you guys engineer what? And 2 or 3 months before this article came out in the New York Times, anyone saying that on YouTube or Facebook was being banned. It's shocking to me that people tolerate this, which is why I'm just speaking to people who want to listen now. I'm not trying to change anyone's mind. I'm providing information for people who want to know the truth.
Yeah, and that's what we were doing. We were talking about ivermectin because, like you said, I mean, this isn't some brand new thing. It's been around since 2014. It won Nobel Prize. Didn't it win a Nobel Prize in medicine for curing river blindness and doing the thing? It's an anti-parasitic. It worked, but of course, we knew the reason why they were suppressing it. It wasn't because it didn't work. It was because it did work. And that when you're trying to have an emergency use authorization, and part of the criteria is that there can't be anything else out there that also works, then you have to shit all over the thing that also works, right? I mean, that was just as obvious as it could be. And then we knew that they would pull the Donald Rumsfeld in the end, and years later go, oh, mistakes were made. We did.
Yeah. Yes.
Of course you knew.
Yeah, of course.
If I knew, they knew, right?
Of course they knew.
This is
Right.
You're right.
Of course they did. Of course they knew. The people. Right. Okay. The people who wanted to know knew, and the people who didn't want to know decided not to look into it because they couldn't continue to get their 6-7 figure salaries on a clear conscience if they actually bothered to check the evidence. I mean, they must have known that the book, The War on Ivermectin, was like doing very, very extremely well, so they could have, some people are very dedicated and want to know what the truth is before they open their big fat mouth. For some reason, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because my mother abused me and I'm fucking scared to say anything wrong in case it later ends up in some big reprisal. But for whatever reason it is, I hate to make false claims, right? So if anyone corrects anything I say, I will literally go into my articles and correct them. I cannot, I sent the chapter I wrote on cancer to skeptics, and no one could fault my assessment of the evidence, right? People I was like, okay, come on, tell me where I'm wrong. I'm talking about the kind of people who think that everything in mainstream medicine is like, angelic and sent from God. And if you, I don't know so much as go to a chiropractor, you're under the influence of woo. It's like, these skeptics who are skeptical about everything except for their own dogmas, they couldn't fault it. Okay, well then, it's the science and mainstream, the people. It's interesting that they use. I'll just give you one example. Interesting that they use the term anti-science, right? Because you can get a treatment for cancer approved without even demonstrating that it increases the length of a patient's life or the quality of a patient's life, on the condition that it shrinks a tumor. There's just one problem with that, and it's a really, really, really big one. There's stacks and stacks and stacks of data showing that tumor shrinkage does not lead to better patients' outcomes. They can die of a secondary infection. They can die of the treatment. The tumor can shrink for 2 weeks, then grow even bigger than before, really, 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 really quickly. There's all sorts of ways that shrinking a tumor. And that's according to their own studies. So my main endeavor with 7pharmamyths, 7pharmamyths.com for your free ebook, was to just show people that their own studies, you don't even need to go to conspiracy theorists. I go to the FDA, I go to the AMA, I go to the CDC. I pull out their own statements from the Lancet, the British Medical Journal, and I demonstrate that even if you go to mainstream sources, they debunk themselves. That's why I don't talk about the virus, no virus thing. So I can't even find any mainstream sources saying there's no such thing as virus. I just focus on the stuff that's completely admitted, and really that's enough to completely blow up anyone's faith in pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, they should have none. At least here in the States, they're all convicted felons. They've all been found guilty in courts of felonies, which would, normally if you're just a person that's out there committing felonies and getting convicted of it, they put you in prison for that. They don't
go to jail.
No, nobody goes to jail in America and corporate world.
Paying a fine for a pharmaceutical company is just an expense. I've covered it countless times. Other people like John Abramson have covered it. We get taken to court, and what they're sued for is a small fraction of what they've made in profits from the drug they're being sued for. So what it is basically just blackmail. It's just a bribe. It's just a bribe. Here's your kickback. Here's a kickback for the courts. So, here's the interesting thing. The regulator does not get access to all the data, right? Even if you assume that the FDA were angels, they don't get access to all the data. Now, the journals could demand that the pharmaceutical companies give them access to the raw data, but they don't, because they're kind of in this cahoots with the biomedical companies, because what happens is hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, selling reprints of the misleading article on Vioxx back to the manufacturer. The manufacturer then sent that article out to medical doctors to propagandize them and to so the journals get money from selling reprints, which is why they don't like to print unfavorable articles, because who do you sell an unfavorable article to? Who can you sell it to? And they also have advertising space, which pharmaceuticals fill up. So they don't want the raw data. Sometimes the only time anyone sees the raw data is when the company's taken to court because the drug has caused so much harm that it's become conspicuous. And the judge goes, all right, you guys have got to open your book. They get the expert witnesses in to go through all the data. And the expert witnesses hopefully find, oh, I see where they fudged the data. It's here, here, and here. And the FDA wouldn't have even seen it. So, I mean, people think they're getting access to drugs that are based on good science and that anything outside of the mainstream is quackery, when all of this is freely admitted. I've not pulled this out of my ass. It works.
Yeah, this is the problem that we have, is that they've convinced the general public that mainstream means that it works, and anything outside of mainstream means that it's, like you said, quackery, fraud, holistic, people rubbing crystals all over themselves, or herbs and spices and things like that.
Right, let's talk about crystals for a second.
Yeah, please go for it.
Right. People will go online and tell you that crystals couldn't possibly have a memory, while using this device, which is absolutely full of crystals used to hold memory on it. It's almost a complete fucking piss take. If crystals don't have a memory, how the fuck does your smartphone work? Right? So this is the kind of psyop. The human body is in effect a battery and a crystal, right? They don't understand it now, but they used to at some point, because there's an indication that at some point people knew about these things, right? It's not understood how the brain holds memory, right? Because it's like you can take out parts of the brain and things like that, and people don't necessarily lose memories.
Right.
But I think in the future, if the cabal don't somehow manage to stop it, people will understand that memory is held in the body in a similar, maybe not even the body, we might have energy bodies. Definitely believe that in India and other indigenous cultures, but in using similar principles to crystals, the way that water functions and so forth, the way that water functions in the body is extremely important to health. One of the interesting things is, in terms of choking the information, is like Wikipedia. It's really interesting because if you read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, there's they're all indoctrinated with this software called Hypnopedia, and it's like the greatest indoctrination technology ever created. That's Wikipedia. Because as soon as you look someone up, like that Dr. Batman who wrote that book, Your Body's Cries for Water, if you actually read the book, he cites tons of mainstream publications where he got studies published. If you go on his Wikipedia page, it says that he's a quack. They don't cite any of his studies. They don't demonstrate that he was in mainstream. So they just, and then someone like me, or let's say I don't really have that much to lose. Although I would have made a lot more money if I just focused on being a psychotherapist and wasn't so addicted to writing articles on Big Pharma. That you will go, if you're a credible researcher with a normal career, you'll go, I don't want to cite that guy. Because if I mention him in my book, then people will look him up on Wikipedia, and then they'll think I'm a quack, And my work is very important, and I don't want to compromise my audience or my reach. So this is how I knew. Maybe you know him. Some of your audience have heard of him, Lloyd Pye. I spoke to him.
Oh yeah.
He finally, yeah, he had a whole page on his page debunking his Wikipedia page. He said he got them on the phone, and he said all my biographical details are wrong. Everything I want you to correct my Wikipedia page. And the guy said, Lloyd, you're the last person I would believe about your own life. So the thing is, they've bought off the journals with advertising. The reason why 18 out of 22 ads in the evening news are pharma ads is not to sell you pharmaceuticals. It's because they know that the news cannot report on pharma scandals while pharma are their biggest advertisers because they lose all their revenue. They're buying favorable coverage. There's over 500 drug withdrawals every year in the USA. Wrong dosage on the bottle. Wrong this, wrong that. They could create a pharma scandal every single day, but they don't because that's who's funding them. The 5 of the 20 top lobbying groups in the USA are healthcare groups. So from the biomedical industry, insurance companies, etc. So if they bought off all of those institutions, what makes you think they wouldn't buy off Wikipedia, which is the first thing that people go to anytime they're told anyone's name?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just want people to know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Jimmy Whale, the founder of Wikipedia, he's no good. He's been no good for a long, long time. We understand that. And of course, Lloyd Pye, his book, Everything You Know Is Wrong, is the first conspiracy book I was ever given. Long before I got anything from
cool.
anybody else's stuff was Lloyd Pye's. That's funny. Yeah, the idea that his bio would be all completely wrong on Wikipedia. Yeah, that's how you know you're doing it right, is when they have screwed up
Absolutely.
your bio. So
I can't wait to see what they put on my Wikipedia page. I can't wait. It's going to be fucking hilarious.
Let's talk about water for a second, since you brought it up. They've done all these amazing studies about, the Japanese studies where you talk to water in a certain way and then you freeze it, and if you yell at it, it takes on a different formation than if you're very nice to it. It doesn't really require too much of a leap to understand that since we're made mostly of water, if our emotions can have that relationship with a glass of water that we yell at for 15 minutes and then stick it in the freezer and it gets crazy ice, ice fingerprints, however you want to describe it. If it can do it to a glass of water, what can it do to us, right? So are we our own worst enemies when it comes to dealing with and treating the water within our bodies a certain way? I mean, can we make ourselves sick by just being negative to ourselves?
I think that people have a sense of when they're contracted, which is you go into a certain mood, you can't see how your life is going to work out. Whatever I do, this is not going to work, that's not going to work. And when they're expansive, they're like, oh, I can see how it fits together, right? Water is an important part of that puzzle. In fact, I often say to people, it's really, really important to get that, fruit and juicing and things like that, because once you get that water out of the tap, it's not even H2O anymore. It's more like H200 or 100. The molecules are all in a jumble. Nature perfectly structures your water so that you can exchange the old water in your cells for the new water. And when you drink water, as soon as it hits your stomach, the beginning of your digestion system, it filters into the body. Whereas if you get that celery juice, organic celery juice, more than you want to drink a little bit more than you want to drink, and watch yourself evacuate, who knows how long that stuff's been inside you, what comes out. It goes all the way through the tube. So you get that radical hydration of the body. So yeah, I mean, what you're talking about is similar to the thing about crystals or water, the idea that we're not just physical beings, we're energetic beings. We know this. We run on electricity. What happens in your cells? What are you eating the food? You're breaking the food down to energy, aren't you? Fundamentally, you run on energy. The body has a North Pole and a South Pole. They know this in terms of where the way that you position your bed in relation to the poles affects your body, affects your sleep. So, um, and the interesting thing is this information has been around for ages and ages, and I naively thought at the end of the 90s and the beginning of the thousands, especially when I got onto YouTube and I saw all this information that was coming together, that it was only a matter of time before it became mainstream. And I think we were kind of like shut down with it. The first one I think that really derailed this was 9/11. And COVID was like the second 9/11, I think. It was like the effect that it had on the consciousness. But the interesting thing is, it's brought us all together. Like, everyone was working on their little silos in their own. And now the freedom movement is very integrated. We're everyone knows everyone else a lot better now. So I mean, maybe we have an opportunity, but I think it's time for people to stop working in their own silos and start collaborating together. And now I know I didn't speak directly to your question on water. If there's something more that you want to say about it.
It's look, I agree with you that 9/11, COVID, it's same thing. These transformational events that happen that shift the consciousness. We get lied to. We get massive amounts of lies by the establishment. And then there's some of us out there that hear those lies and they go, this doesn't add up to me. I don't believe whatever you're saying. I don't know if the story's not making sense or the person delivering the story I don't trust, but there's a lot of flaws with it, and it creates a segment of the population pulls away from that, and they go, nope, I'm being lied to, and that's an opportunity for. I mean, I wish we didn't have to go through these 9/11s or COVIDs or these major transformative events, but if we are going to go through them, we might as well get something out of it, right? And that's what there's sort of
the thing is, you don't. Yeah, we don't have the choice about that stuff, right? You're just thrown into this existence, whether you like it or not. Your job is just to surf it as best as you possibly can, right? Whatever happens tomorrow, I don't know. I'm lucky that we were having this conversation. Oh, isn't it so bad that people were put in lockdown and and they had no choice and people went around and things like that. But imagine you were living in Palestine or Yemen, right? Compared to the life that we have, what they're concerned about is just not having their legs blown off or how the fuck they're going to get their little brother to hospital because they did get their legs blown off. So there's so many things that are out of the scope of our control. You're here in a prison, but some people, when they get into the prison yard, they play basketball and they get fit and they make friends and and other people, or they go to their cell and they read and they enrich themselves. Other people in jail just, oh, fuck, I fucked up my life, blah, blah, blah. What's the point in anything, right? So even in a prison, you've got some form of choice. I feel for whatever reason compelled to share this stuff. So do you. That's just the existence we've found ourselves into. It could be there's like an infinite number of these universes and either you had bad luck or for whatever reason, you have the ability to be heroic in this life. And that can be as simple as driving over to your friend's house and taking them to a funeral, the funeral of one of their parents when they really need you. Or, it can be getting up and making a show called Macroaggressions and all the shit that's going on in the world. You have the opportunity to make a contribution here that really matters to people. And I think the more we focus on that, on what we can change, the better we do, which is why I'm more interested in sharing this kind of health information, because I know people can improve their health. I don't know if I can convince people, choose your political issue of the day. There's so many bad economic policies. But this is something that people can take into their own mind, into their own heart. So to return to the thing on crystals and water and things like that, that's about the energetic flow to the cell. My teachers taught me that all disease starts on the cellular level. So toxicity, is there something in your cells that shouldn't be in it, and can you get it out? 2, nutritional deficiency, including dehydration. Is there something that should be in your cell that isn't in your cell, and can you get that thing into your cell? 3 would be the energetic flow to the cell. Again, this is about it's not stuff like acupuncture. It's not all it's energetic, both in terms of electricity, which we actually run on, and the more woo stuff, the stuff that's considered woo, which you'll hear about in yoga and whatnot. Then the emotional thing, which is what you brought up, our emotional and psychological health, which is what I learned to treat people with it, as a psychotherapist. BeYourselfAndLoveIt.com. And then, social relationships and things like that. Later on, I come to find that there was at least a 6th one, which is residual chronic muscle tension. That will fuck you up. I was getting carpal tunnel syndrome, and luckily I met a healer in Mexico. She was at Anarchapulco that treated me for that, and I'd also like to train under her, because what she's discovered was of immense value. 95% of my symptoms have gone away. I never even knew this stuff was possible. If someone is interested in that, they can look into something like Rainer massage, advanced reflexology. These kinds of modalities can remove intense tension from the muscles, and that changes everything. If your muscles are less tense, you as a human are less tense. If your muscles are less tense, the blood can get into your extremities and clean out the garbage. So it helps with detoxification. And that's why we shouldn't talk about alternative medicine, but holistic medicine, which is we're not seeing everything that the body does as in a little silo happening on its own, but how does the body function as a whole?
Yeah, that's the key, right? Is if they can get you disconnected from one component of that, then it throws off everything. Your whole body system has to overcompensate for being thrown off. If they can get you to be in a negative state of mind, it's going to physically manifest in your body, right? You got to, and then you go, oh, my stomach hurts. Well, how funny that your stomach hurts. It's probably your brain that started this whole thing by having bad thoughts, and then that puts you into a state of mind where you are negative, and then you impact. So that's Western medicine, right? Western medicine says, oh, it's this one thing, and Eastern medicine says it's a lot of things all connected together in this system. That's why when they give you the acupuncture and they show like where on the body, okay, my foot is hurting, okay, great, I'm going to stick a needle in your shoulder, and you go, yeah, but my shoulder doesn't hurt, my foot hurts, and they go,
it's all connected, and it's even on the foot. The thing is, I don't know how they managed to do such a good job of repressing this stuff, because like, how can your shoulder relate to a toe? Even the muscles, the physical muscles, go in muscle bands, right? For example, my shoulders are too far in. I had, I don't know if that's from the way I was born or something like that, but that's how it is. So someone could say, well, my arms don't straighten properly. What one to do with the other? Well, the muscle goes all the way across. So if this muscle in here is too short, it's going to pull like a string, and then you're not going to actually be able to straighten your arm. If this muscle came out to the full length, it would go all down the arm. So there's also an energetic system. And the way that I was treated from carpal tunnel syndrome in the wrist was not in my wrist. It was, by applying extreme pressure to the tips of my fingers, and little by little tension came out further down the muscle band. This is all stuff. It's almost unstoppable. Whether it will go to the mainstream, I don't know. But even if it just promulgates through our networks, that's a pretty good thing. I would like to see the freedom warriors in really, really, really good health. because then those mainstream people who, maybe put some chemicals into their blood that they shouldn't, will start turning around their shoulder and going, well, how come all those people who didn't do that are so much more healthy than we are?
Right.
And that would be the best way to teach the lesson. And I have no question that if enough people came round to see that those mainstream treatments are harmful, that we would find ways to rehabilitate people. I mean, America spends $4 trillion a year on healthcare. If they had a similar healthcare system to Singapore, they might be able to reduce that to 1 trillion. And that's not even, and that's even maintaining the pharmaceutical model. That's $3 trillion is a lot of money. It's enough to keep liberals happy by paying for the unfunded liabilities. It's enough to keep conservatives happy by with a nice big tax cut. It's enough to keep everyone happy. Why wouldn't you want to spend $3 trillion? Why wouldn't you want to save $3 trillion? With that money, we could focus on health rather than illness. I cover in my articles several programs that ran which actually successfully prevented diabetes and heart disease, but they got shut down because under the current model, they were losing the private hospitals' money. They lost more money when they prevented people from getting heart disease and diabetes. And then if you ask people, they'll say, oh, well, people don't want to change their habits. They like eating corn chips and sitting on the couch. Okay, that may be true in a society where the doctor says, yeah, just eat less and take more exercise, stop smoking and drinking. Now off you go. And then they go, well, all my friends drink, all my family eat this food, blah, blah, blah. But if you get people involved in a program where they go and they meet people and they go running together or whatever is that their capacity, they like that. The thing is, there needs to be structures in society to support people making healthier choices. And because guess what? Society gives you tons and tons of support when it comes to taking pharmaceuticals, right?
Yeah, they do.
So, so, okay, well, maybe some people wouldn't want to do it, but then their families start going, well, your uncle really went on that program and he lost 60 pounds. Maybe you should think of doing it as well. I mean, the government is paying for it. I know the libertarians in the audience won't like that, but I know I'd rather they were paying for that than what they're currently paying for, which is Medicare and Medicaid, which is not proven to improve people's health outcomes. In fact, people on those sometimes do worse than people with no insurance at all.
So what's Singapore doing? Are they just being preventative and proactive in advance of this?
It's the way that they pay for their healthcare. Instead of like doing what we do in the UK or Canada or most of Europe, which is the government pays for healthcare, which means that's every lobbying group dream, which is we just go and get our program on the government provided healthcare. Or what America does, which is they pay private insurance and the government. Again, we like to think we have got different systems. They're very, 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 very similar. Okay. 50% of healthcare spending in the US is government spending. So they can decide what treatments are supported under the system and what aren't using the wealth. I mean, I've seen so many alternative treatments that are more effective than the mainstream stuff, but you won't get it paid for in Medicare or Medicaid or by your private insurance, right? Instead, what Singapore do is the government forces you to put money into a health savings account. I know it's a little bit coercive, but there it is. The money's in the saving account. It's yours. You can earn interest on it. And when you have a health complaint, you shop around for the best treatment at the best price, which means that even though they have a partly government system in the sense that the healthcare savings account is mandated, it emulates a market where buyers can shop around for the best treatment at the best price. They can go to whatever hospital they want. And what they have is all of the hospitals the hospitals have a range of different rooms available, from private rooms with a toilet and a maid to come in, right down to dorms. So rich people subsidize poor people, but even though everyone gets the same treatment, people with means can pay for a much more expensive room and all the amenities they want, and that subsidizes the healthcare of people who can't afford it. In addition to this, not everyone will agree with this, but the government is quite adamant on like providing local gyms for free and things like that in places, in terms of preventative care. And because people know that when they are in need of healthcare, it's going to come out of their own public health savings account, they're more inclined to make better choices in the short term than if they were going to public purse to just take it out of the government's pocket. There's a few other details, but those are the main things that are really important, and they account for the fact that you can get treated in a top hospital in Singapore, even by doctors that are trained in America, for significantly less than you can in the USA. And some people do opt to fly to Singapore to pay for treatment, sometimes because it's cheaper. If they have to pay for it themselves, they'll go fly there and get an operation done and things like that.
Yeah. Well, listen, you can't blame them. Especially if
I wish more people did it.
If you're in the United States, the United States healthcare system is the number 3 leading cause of death behind heart disease and cancer. So, I mean, it's not.
And even that, even that's bollocks, because if it wasn't for the pharmaceutical industry, people would have much better treatment options available for cancer and heart disease. So the healthcare system is partly responsible for all the heart disease and cancer disease deaths. So you could basically say that the medical system in America is the number 1 cause of death, not the third.
Yeah, really. A case could be made that they're deeply involved in all of this. It's disgusting. We see, there's a term here. It's called sick care. It's not healthcare.
Right.
There's no health going on here. This is healthcare is something you do while you're healthy to make sure that you care for yourself,
stay here,
remain healthy. Sick care is what we've got. We wait until, and it's funny because hospitals and mechanics are run the same way. They don't tell you what the prices are. They just wait for you to break down, and then you come in a vulnerable state, and they start working on you, and then at the end, then you get the bill for what it is. What are you going to do? You're going to pull yourself out of a hospital halfway through? You're going to pull your car out of a mechanic's garage halfway? Well, put those tires back. I'm not going to pay for those brake pads. They're way too much. No, if you don't get to choose until the very end, and then you see it and you go, "Holy shit! You charged me this much? This is crazy. This is too much." And they go, "Well, listen, man. I mean, your car was broken, or your brain was broken, or whatever, right?" So they just make it up.
Right, exactly. And if it was, and there must be something wrong. There must be something wrong with the way that the market works, because, for example, it should be in insurance companies' interests to keep people's premiums down. So in a sane system, they just say to people, look, we can pay you get treated in the USA where this operation is going to cost you $120,000, or we could just fly you out to Thailand and you can have 2 weeks on the beach, and that'll only cost us $30,000, be cheaper for us. We have to ask, why isn't this happening? Because that would save the insurance companies money. There must be some grease in the system which is stopping this from happening. In addition to that, according to one article, a heart attack could cost upwards of $700,000 when you take into account loss of work, all the medical treatment, care at home, etc., 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 right? So in a system where whatever organizations you were involved in for healthcare would turn to you and say, it's going to be too expensive for us to treat you for a heart attack. What we want to do is to prevent you from getting a heart attack. So here you go. We want you to go to these exercise classes. And as long as you go to all your exercise classes, they will be completely free. However, if you miss one of them, we are going to fine you, right? And then people would have the incentive to engage constructively and preventatively, because healthcare, as in maintaining or improving health, would be free. It would be considered that you were saving money by engaging in healthcare. However, neglecting your health would be costly. And then everyone's incentives would be aligned together in the right direction. That's the opposite of what we do now. I was taught in economics that a system tends to produce the kind of results that it's incentivized to produce. And when you look at healthcare, the thing that would make the most money for them is if people could be treated for long-term chronic illnesses over 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And let's see what we've just got over the last few decades. Somehow, by coincidence, the rates of chronic disease seem to just keep rising and rising. I wonder why that could be.
Yeah. COVID let the cat out of the bag for a lot of people because we understood that what you would normally be saying to people in the summer of 2020 is, we don't know what this is. We don't know how serious this virus is that's coming. It's hurting a lot of people, and we're still figuring it out. In the meantime, while we figure this out, you need to get fresh air and get a lot of exercise and get out in the sun and boost your immune system and drink lots of water and eat healthy foods and keep yourself at. We didn't hear any of that. We heard the exact opposite of that. We heard actually the only advice they gave us was the last, the worst thing you could possibly do.
No.
Stay away from your family. Stay in your house. Watch TV and watch Netflix. Don't go outside. Definitely don't go outside. Don't go to the basketball park. Damn, thing just dropped right off. So that's the direction that they gave us. That's what they said to do was to continue and do all of the things that you're not supposed to do. That's the advice they gave us was the worst advice possible. That advice was to just stay in your house, be scared, be isolated, really bad mentally, and do all these things. Definitely, just as much as you can, be as fearful as possible about the way the world is, and then we'll tell you when everything is going to be fine. Oh, and by the way, the only possible way you can get healthy is if you inject yourself with this experimental potion that we haven't even finished the testing on.
Yeah, and if you don't take it, then you'll lose your job as well. And somehow people accepted that.
I forgot about that.
But it's so phenomenal that people actually were willing to tolerate that. I think it's really, really shocking, and it's quite scary. But exactly, I've said this to many people at the time. I was like, right, I don't actually believe in government. Right, I'm an anarchist. But if you're going to have a government, at least they could pretend to do what most people think that governments are meant to do, which is protect the public interest, whatever that is. So you've got a new virus. You'd send out a little booklet to every house in your country saying your immune system and how to take care of it. Well, contracting a virus cannot always be avoided. There are several things you can do to, one, reduce your risk of catching it, and two, your immune system. Here are the things that are known to improve your immune system. Here are the things that are known to like blah, blah, blah. That's what you would do. That's what a government that actually cared about the people would do. And the fact that this was not astonishingly obvious to everyone, mainstream people should have been saying this. It's like, it's mind-blowing. But, at least we can come on a show like Microaggressions and listen to shows like this and regain our sanity that other people can actually see this for what it is.
Well, we hope so, right? But as we've discovered, there's some people that'll never see it. Their brain won't allow them to see it, because in order to see it means they have to admit that they were scared when they shouldn't have been scared, and that's embarrassing, or they were wrong when they shouldn't have been wrong, or they did things to their kids.
And they were maybe mean to people.
Yeah, they were very mean to people. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was a very and they were given a license to be mean to people. They were told to here in the United States, if you see somebody having Thanksgiving dinner, too many cars in the driveway, you call the police. It might be a super spreader event. Like
Yeah,
they
it's ridiculous.
incentivized weird behavior, and they told those people that they were stunning and brave for doing that. And then they made statues of nurses and put those in front of hospitals. And you went, this isn't what like. This isn't what you would do if you were in the middle of an actual pandemic. This is what you would be doing if you were pretending like you were having a pandemic. But you wouldn't be making TikTok videos in hospitals with nurses pretending to be like rowing a boat across the Potomac and all this bullshit that they were doing. We watched that and we just went, what? This is incompatible with reality. So is that actually part of it though, Anthony, that they need to kind of break your brain and make you like crack you to the point where you
I love that you said that. Because so I've been speaking to people about this recently. I remembered that again. I was like, it's almost like part of the humiliation is to see how many fucking stupid shit things they can get people to do. Like when you go into a cafe, you have to have your mask on, but when you sit down, you can take your mask off, but then when you get up to go to the toilet, you need to put it on again. Oh, we just told you that it doesn't spread from surfaces, and we know that now. But anytime you come into a cafe, someone has to come and wipe the surface with a surface cleaner, even though that these the chemicals in surface cleaners are toxic to the good bacteria which your body depends on to live, right? All this stuff, like, some of the regulations were so bizarre and absurd. In order to go to America, I had to spend a minimum of 2 weeks in Mexico. Now, there was no regulations on what I did in Mexico. To a crack party and had a big threesome with a bunch of crack whores, which, by the way, was super fun. I didn't get a PCR test afterwards, so I don't know if one of them gave me COVID, but I was still allowed to enter the USA after 2 weeks in Mexico. Who knows? Who knows what it's like? It surely would have been much safer for me to just fly straight from the UK to America but no, that wasn't what the regulation said at the time.
Yeah.
Lucky I did go to Mexico though, because otherwise I wouldn't have, I maybe never would have gone somewhere like Acapulco or the Greater Reset in Morelia. I would have never, I maybe never would have, and when I look back on it that way, it seems like it's all meant to be, because kind of going to Mexico opened so many doors for me, and I never would have gone there if not for COVID regulations. So I think that's what happens when you follow your heart. So I recommend that to people. Like, don't get caught up in the negativity, because you cannot. What I used to say, when I was touring America during COVID and I was at libertarian events, I would always say, look, I'm fighting this with every fiber of my being, but I'm doing it with a smile on my face.
Yep.
Because if they get your spirits, they've already won, So the interesting thing is, you don't know where I go when this laptop closes. See all those people that you meet in this street, like, they might go into a completely different universe in the multiverse for you, and you've got no control over that, So you just need to focus on the timeline that you're in and make it a good one,
Yeah. Well, listen, the world works in mysterious ways. And like you said, if it hadn't been for COVID, you wouldn't have found your way to Mexico. We wouldn't have probably even met if it hadn't been for that. So thanks, COVID. I guess we're going to thank it for that, right? Or it's not so much that as it is the government overreactions. But
I never say, whenever anyone says because of COVID, I say no, because of the government response to COVID. Because I think it's really,
yeah. That's really the major part.
It's pretty difficult when, there's all this inflation, price inflation in the supermarket and everything's so expensive. And you and I know it's because of lockdowns. You and I know it's because they shut the economy down. That's basic economics. Less supply, more demand means the price of goods go up. That's basic economics. It's very crazy making that all economics professors didn't come out and say this. And then, they're going to blame evil capitalism and ask for more regulations in response to it rather than address the root of the problem. That kind of stuff can get you down.
Yeah.
I don't really know address that. I think that we just, that's this.
Well, listen, next time that I have you back on, I want to talk about universal basic income because I know you've done work on that, but we'll skip that until we get until the next time around so that people can digest all of this. For anybody that's interested, the best place, I think, for them to go and get a quick free ebook on this would be 7pharmamyths.com. It's the number 7, not written out 7. So the number 7, PHARMA MYTHS 7pharmamyths.com. That is going to be down in the show notes below, so you can link to that if you want to connect with Antony Sammeroff and get all the information that he's got in that book. Please do. That's the best place to do it. And if you want to connect with me, the website is macroaggressions.io. I encourage you to come over there and take a look and see what you think. And if you like this episode, you can take the additional step right now of sharing it with your friends and family. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you again soon.